So my grandfather and I rounded the corner here onto Calumet Avenue. And I remember clearly coming this way, and as we turned the corner, once again, picture perfect fall October day. The leaves were turning, the sky was brilliant blue, the air was chilly, and here, this school store used to be a food store, a supermarket called Model Foods. And as we turned the corner here, I remember seeing a mound of pumpkins here, bright, brilliant orange in the sunlight. It was such a fascinating thing to see, and that excitement that, yeah, Halloween was just 1 week away. Fabulous time. We continued our walk down here, down Calumet to 173rd, where we turned west. So as my grandfather and I finished our walk here on the last leg of the journey back down 173rd, what do you think happened? Maybe the coolest thing of all. We stopped into Macaulay's right here, our favorite treasure shop. And my grandfather said, pick out something that you'd like. And there on the wall, on this wall behind the counter, on the model wall, was a model of a skeleton of a mastodon. And I said, that's what I would like. Probably cost like 98 cents. My grandfather bought it for me. I remember it in the little brown paper bag. Clutched it in my arm as he and I continued walking back to his home. It was a really, really cool day and a cool event because, like I said, my grandfather, just didn't relate to us often in this kind of way. It was a very special memory. And this mastodon skeleton, incidentally, was by a company called Palmer Plastics. It was terribly engineered, and I remember going home and trying to put it together. I was 8 years old or whatever, trying to glue. I could not make this thing work, but I never mentioned a word of it to my grandfather because I didn't want to in any way blemish this marvelous little memory and event that he and I had on that Friday morning in October many, many, many years ago. In the mid-1950s, when the suburbs were really coming to life here in the Calumet area, this is Woodmar, obviously. My family and I moved down just a block from where we're standing, a block south, 169th and Magoon Avenue. We moved there in September of 1954, and we knew that this store was being built. The first mall in the Calumet area, I believe, and as far as I'm concerned, like the first crack in the armor of downtown Hammond as the dominant business area here. Well, in fact, we could stand on our front lawn, our front sidewalk there on Magoon and look down here and see the big old white facade of Carson's with the cranes and stuff. Well, it was still being built. And in 1955, the Woodmar Shopping Center opened. And it was really dominant. It was in its heyday for about 10 years because the River Oaks Shopping Center didn't open until '66. So for 10 or 11 years, this was the place to go if you lived here. Fabulous place, and how ironic, isn't it, the way time moves on and the cycles all turn. Because I'm talking about 50 years ago from right now when this thing opened, it was cutting edge. It was the place to be. And here it is in 2005, and this is probably the last chance you'll ever have to see this building because time has moved on and it is now fairly extinct. But we're going to go inside and look at two locations which were really among the most fabulous in this area. Here inside the Woodmar Shopping Mall, this was really a fabulous place. First of all, it was not enclosed back then in the 50s and 60s. Yeah, you were outside, so whether it was sweltering hot or freezing cold, you came into these little stores, and they were such a place of refuge. But in particular, for the purposes of our little tour, I believe it was this storefront. Right on the north end of what was Walgreens, there was a little independent mom and pop store called Storktown. And in some ways, it was the most fascinating of all of these places because they seemed to have absolutely everything. It was a little narrow place with the door over here, right on the right side. And in the window was a neon sign, Storktown, custom made, with the profile of a stork with his yellow big old beak. And we would enter here, and the store once again was very long and narrow. And in the back, as in so many of these stores, it was dark. And on the right side in the back, on shelves up high, were like Tonka toys and stuff, and trucks and steam shovels. My brother got his dragline steam shovel here, I remember, in October of 1960 for his birthday. On the other side, there were strollers and things for girls, big dolls and whatnot, and they actually sold cribs and things here. Part of the reason the concept of the place was called Stork Town. But here in the front, on the walls and all around here near the front end, there were toys. I don't think they sold models, but it was games and toys and figurines and all the stuff that back then, the cheap toys that were packaged just in plastic bags and stuff with a cardboard header on it stapled. When the Civil War thing, with the Civil War centennial, my brother and I were obsessed suddenly by Civil War. We could come in here and just buy stuff, bags of Civil War soldiers, things we had never seen before, right here. In early '62, when Marx put out its series Warriors of the World, those fantastic little figures of from all different nations and historical periods, you could come right in here and buy all of them in the big box sets. Just fabulous. I mean, this was one of the places, gone and hopefully not forgotten, that was truly a magical little treasure shop, a unique, one-of-a-kind place. In the summer of 1960, I remember coming over here. My mother actually let my brother and I walk over here one afternoon, hot afternoon, and we spent too much time. I remember she was quite upset with us that we were over here as long as we were. But we got back and we said, yeah, but Ma, but the Three Stooges hand puppets are here. We already had the Moe puppet, but there was Larry and Curly hanging right here on the walls, and she somehow cooled off, and I think it was within a day or two she brought us back here, and we had our complete set of Three Stooges hand puppets. A fabulous place, and one very dear to my heart, Stork Town.